The dining hall of Horizon's Edge Station gleamed under artificial lights that mimicked Earth's sun. Dae-ho Kim straightened his formal jacket and tried not to feel nervous. 6 months of living on this diplomatic station, and formal dinners with the Luminari still made his palms sweat. He spotted Valera across the room immediately. She was hard to miss. The Luminari woman stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin covered in delicate patterns that glowed faintly blue in the dim light. Her people called those patterns the soul mark, and they changed color with emotion. Right now, Valera's patterns pulsed a soft violet as she spoke with other members of her delegation. "You're staring again," Haiwan Park whispered, elbowing him gently. His colleague and friend grinned at him knowingly. "I'm not staring," Dae-ho protested. "I'm observing. It's my job as cultural liaison." "Sure it is," Haiwan said with a laugh. Dae-ho had worked closely with Valera for months now, helping establish cultural exchange protocols between humans and the Luminari Empire. She fascinated him. Not just because she was alien, but because she seemed genuinely interested in understanding humans. She asked questions about everything from human music to why people kept plants in their quarters. Over the past few months, Valera had given him several gifts: beautiful crystalline formations from her home world, a blade with intricate engravings that he kept on his desk, star maps showing Luminari territories. Dae-ho had shared them proudly with the other human crew members, treating them as signs of successful diplomacy. The dinner began smoothly. Dae-ho sat at the main table between Haiwan and Woojin Lee, the station's communications officer. Valera sat across from him with other high-ranking Luminari officials. The food was a careful blend of human and Luminari cuisine, though Dae-ho still couldn't get used to the glowing blue vegetables. Halfway through the meal, Valera stood up. The room quieted immediately. Luminari social customs demanded attention when someone stood during a formal gathering. "Ambassador Kim," Valera said, her voice carrying easily across the hall. "I have something for you." Dae-ho blinked in surprise. "Another gift?" He stood up politely, smiling. "You've already been too generous, Ambassador." Valera walked around the table. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for someone so tall. In her hands, she carried a small box made of dark wood. When she opened it, soft light spilled out. Inside lay a stone unlike anything Dae-ho had seen before. It was roughly the size of a chicken egg, perfectly smooth, and it glowed from within. Colors swirled inside it constantly, shifting from gold to silver to deep purple. "This is a karshen," Valera said softly. Her soul marks had turned a brilliant pink that Dae-ho had never seen before. "It forms only once in a Luminari's lifetime, when we have found the one we wish to bond with forever." The room had gone completely silent. Every Luminari present stared at them. Even the human staff had stopped moving. Dae-ho took the box, admiring the beautiful stone. It must be another symbolic gift, he thought. Maybe it represented the bond between their two species, the alliance they were building together. "What's this?" he asked with a grin. "Are you proposing to me?" He meant it as a joke. A light-hearted moment to ease the formal tension of the dinner. No one laughed. Valera's soul marks flared bright red. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. Around them, Luminari officials began whispering to each other in their flowing language. Valera's voice came out strangled. "I have been proposing for 5 lunar cycles, Ambassador Kim." The smile froze on Dae-ho's face. 5 months. 5 lunar cycles. The gifts. The star maps showing her home world. Her birthplace. The blade with personal engravings. "Oh no, you thought." Valera's voice trailed off. Her soul marks flickered between red and a dark gray that looked like storm clouds. "You did not know." Dae-ho's mind raced through every interaction they'd had over the past months. Her questions about human relationships. The way she always made time to see him, even when her schedule was packed. How she'd learned to make human tea just the way he liked it. "Ambassador Valera," he started, but she held up a hand. "Please," she said quietly. "No more words tonight." She turned and walked from the dining hall. Her back was straight, her head high. but Daeho could see the tremor in her shoulders. The other luminari stood and followed her out, shooting glances at Daeho that ranged from confused to hostile. Within minutes, only the humans remained in the dining hall. "Did you really not know?" Woojin asked, his eyes wide. Daeho sank into his chair, still holding the glowing stone. "I had no idea." Haewon grabbed his arm. "Daeho. The luminari are matriarchal. Females choose their mates. When a luminari woman gives gifts to a man, it's not just friendship, it's courtship. But we're different species," Daeho said weakly. "Apparently that doesn't matter to her," Haewon replied. She looked worried. "This is bad, really bad. You just rejected a high-ranking luminari ambassador in front of her entire delegation." Daeho looked down at the Karshen in his hands. The colors inside seemed to be moving slower now, fading to duller shades. He remembered Valera saying it only formed once in a lifetime. "I need to apologize," he said, standing up quickly. "Not tonight," Haewon advised. "Give her space. We'll figure out the cultural protocols tomorrow and do this properly." But Daeho barely slept that night. He kept thinking about Valera's face when she realized he'd been treating her proposals as friendship. The way her soul marks had flickered red with embarrassment and gray with hurt. He pulled up his personal files and started reviewing every gift she'd given him. The crystalline formations were from her family's estate. The blade had her family crest engraved on it. The star maps marked the places that mattered most to her. Each gift was deeply personal, intimate, and he'd shown them off to everyone like trophies. Around 3 in the morning, Daeho's door chimed. He opened it to find Woojin standing there with a tablet. "You need to see this," Woojin said grimly. "I've been monitoring luminari communications. The hardliners in their government want Valera recalled to their home world. They're saying she dishonored herself by pursuing a human." Daeho took the tablet, scanning the translated messages. Words jumped out at him. Contaminated by alien influence. Weakness. Unfit for diplomatic service. Number. "They're going to force her to leave?" Daeho asked. "Unless she withdraws her proposal formally within 3 days," Woojin confirmed. "But even then, the damage might be done to her career." "Enter." Daeho looked at the Karshan sitting on his desk, still glowing faintly. Valera had risked everything to offer it to him. Her career, her standing with her own people. And he'd laughed it off. He made a decision then. Tomorrow, he would find Valera. He would understand what these proposals truly meant. And he would figure out what his own feelings really were. Because somewhere in the past 6 months, while he'd been admiring her intelligence and enjoying her company, something had shifted. He'd started looking forward to seeing her each day, started noticing the way her soul marks brightened when he entered a room. Maybe he'd been just as blind about his own feelings as he'd been about hers. Daeho found Haewon in the station's small garden the next morning. She was tending to the tomato plants that several humans had started growing, trying to make the cold metal station feel more like home. "I need to understand luminari courtship customs," Daeho said without preamble. "Everything. From the beginning." Haewon wiped dirt from her hands and sat down on a bench, gesturing for him to join her. "It's complicated," she warned. "I've been studying their culture for months, and I'm still learning. Tell me anyway." Haewon pulled out her tablet and brought up her notes. "Luminari society is matriarchal. Women are the warriors, the leaders, the decision-makers. Men are valued, but in different ways. They're scholars, artists, caregivers. So when a woman chooses a man, it's a big deal," Haewon confirmed. "Luminari don't date like humans do. When a woman decides a man is worthy, she begins the proposal process. It can take months, or even years." Daeho thought about the 5 months of gifts. "What do the gifts mean?" Haewon scrolled through her notes. "Each gift has specific meaning. Crystals from a family estate mean, you are precious to me. A personal weapon means, I trust you with my life. Star maps showing personal locations mean, I want to share my world with you." Each explanation felt like a punch to Daeho's gut. He'd misunderstood everything. "The Karshen is the final step," Haewon continued quietly. "It's not actually a stone. It's a biological formation that grows inside a luminary's body. When they've committed completely to someone, it takes months to form and causes physical pain. Velira literally grew that stone inside herself for you. Deho felt sick. I showed her gifts to everyone. I put the blade on display in my quarters. You didn't know, Heywan said gently. But Deho, there's more you need to understand. Luminary mate for life. Once they give the Karshen, they never form another one. If the proposal is rejected, they remain alone forever. Forever? Their biology locks onto one person. If that person says no, the Luminary can never bond with anyone else. Heywan met his eyes. Velira chose you, knowing you might reject her, knowing it would mean spending the rest of her very long life alone. Deho stood up and paced. Why would she choose me? We're different species. It doesn't make sense. Love rarely makes sense, Heywan said. But it's even more complicated than that. Velira, choosing a human, has caused a political firestorm in the Luminary Empire. Many of them see it as betrayal of their species. Over the next few hours, Heywan showed Deho everything she'd learned. The intercepted communications from Luminary hardliners. The debates in their government about whether cross-species bonding should be allowed. The pressure on Velira to withdraw her proposal and return home. Wujin joined them around midday with more information. I've been going through station logs, he said. Look at this. He showed them a pattern. Every day for 5 months, Velira had adjusted her schedule to cross paths with Deho. She'd learned to make human tea. She'd studied Earth's literature and music. She'd asked the station's human chef to teach her about Earth foods. She's been trying to understand you, Wujin said, to bridge the gap between your species. Deho saw it all differently now. Every conversation replayed in his mind with new context. When she'd asked about human concepts of love, she hadn't been asking academically. She'd been trying to understand her own feelings. I need to talk to her, Deho said. She's been avoiding everyone, Wujin replied. She hasn't left the Luminary section of the station since last night. Deho tried anyway. He went to the Luminary quarters and requested to see Velira. The guard at the door, a stern-looking Luminary male, shook his head. Ambassador Velira is not receiving visitors. Please, I need to apologize. I need to explain. She is preparing to depart, the guard said coldly. It is better if you do not see her. Depart. The word hit Deho like ice water. When? 2 days. She will formally withdraw her proposal tomorrow and leave the following morning. Deho walked back to his quarters in a daze. 2 days. She was leaving in 2 days. And he hadn't even told her he was sorry. That night, he couldn't stop thinking. He pulled up Earth movies and books about love, trying to understand what he was feeling. Was this love? He'd never felt this way before. This ache in his chest, when he thought about never seeing Velira again. He remembered the first time he'd met her. She'd extended her hand for a human handshake instead of the traditional Luminary greeting. She'd been trying to make him comfortable from the very start. He remembered how she laughed at his terrible jokes, how her soul marks always brightened to yellow when she saw him, how she'd once stayed up all night helping him prepare a presentation. Even though she had her own work to do. When had he fallen for her? He couldn't pinpoint a single moment. It had been gradual, like the sunrise. One day he'd looked up and realized she'd become the most important part of his day, but he'd told himself it was impossible. She was Luminary. He was human. The gap between them was too wide to cross. So he'd buried his feelings and pretended they were just colleagues. Just friends. Except Velira had been brave enough to cross that gap. She'd risked everything to tell him how she felt. And he'd laughed at her. The next morning, Deho went to the station commander. I need access to Luminary cultural databases, he said. Everything about bonding ceremonies, proposal protocols, everything. The commander, a tired-looking woman named Captain Rivera, studied him. This is about Ambassador Velira. Yes. You know this could complicate the entire human Luminary alliance? I know, Deho said. But I also know That if we're going to have a real alliance, it has to be based on genuine understanding, on genuine connection, not just political convenience. Captain Rivera smiled slightly. You're either very brave or very stupid. Ambassador Kim, probably both, Daeho admitted. She granted him access to the databases. Daeho spent the entire day reading. He learned about Luminari bonding ceremonies, about the deep spiritual significance they placed on life mates, about how rare it was for a Luminari to choose someone from another species. In all of Luminari recorded history, it had only happened 17 times. Each time, it had changed both societies involved. He also found Velira's public records. She was a decorated warrior who'd earned her position through skill and courage. She was a scholar who'd written extensively about interspecies cooperation. She was respected by her people, even by those who disagreed with her choice. By choosing him, she was giving up so much: her position, her standing, possibly her home. As evening approached, Daeho made a decision. He would find Velira before she left. He would tell her the truth about his feelings, and he would let her know that she wasn't alone in this. He went to the observation deck, the place where he and Velira had often met to watch the stars. It was empty. He waited there as the artificial night cycle began, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, hoping it was Velira. It was HFY. She's there, HFY said, pointing to the far end of the observation deck. She comes here every night. I thought you should know. Daeho looked where HFY pointed. In the shadows, he could see a tall figure standing alone, soul marks glowing faintly blue in the darkness. Thank you, he whispered. HFY squeezed his shoulder. Good luck. As she left, Daeho gathered his courage and walked toward Velira. His heart pounded in his chest. Everything was about to change. Daeho stopped a few feet away from Velira. She stood perfectly still, staring out at Earth through the observation window. Her soul marks glowed a deep blue he'd learned meant sadness. I know you are there, Daeho, she said softly without turning around. She'd dropped his title. Just his name. I wanted to apologize, he said. There is nothing to apologize for. Her voice was carefully neutral. The fault was mine. I should have been more direct. I forgot that humans communicate differently than Luminari. You weren't unclear, Daeho insisted. I was just too stupid to see it. That made Velira turn around. Even sad, she was beautiful. Her soul marks cast soft light across her face. You are not stupid. You are brilliant. I have watched you solve problems that frustrated everyone else. I have seen you learn our language in weeks when others take years. Then why didn't I see what you were trying to tell me? Velira smiled sadly. Because you believed it was impossible. Humans do that. You see barriers where there are only differences. She moved to a bench and sat down, her long legs folding gracefully. After a moment, Daeho sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. Can I ask you something? Daeho said. Why me? Of all the people in the galaxy, why choose a human? Velira was quiet for a long moment. Do you know what my people find most strange about humans? That we're weak? Daeho guessed. Humans were smaller than most alien species, slower, more fragile. No, Velira said. It is how you bond with each other. We have studied you extensively since first contact. We have analyzed your biology, your psychology, your culture. And there is one thing we cannot explain. She turned to look at him directly. Humans bond through something you call love. This is not unique by itself. Many species form pair bonds for reproduction or survival, but human love is different. It is not logical. It is not based on genetic compatibility or resource sharing. You bond with people who are wrong for you by every measure. You sacrifice everything for people who cannot benefit you. You love across every barrier imaginable. Daeho had never thought about it that way. We Luminari choose mates based on merit, Velira continued. We evaluate strength, intelligence, character. It is rational. But humans. She shook her head in wonder. You feel something, and you follow it, even when it makes no sense. Other species think you are foolish. But I think you are brave. I don't feel very brave, Deho admitted. You are human, Velira said gently. Bravery is in your nature, even if you do not see it. Before Deho could respond, his communicator buzzed. It was Woojin with an urgent message. Deho excused himself and stepped away to take the call. You need to come to the communications center, Woojin said. Now. I found something important. Reluctantly, Deho left the observation deck. Velira didn't try to stop him. As he walked away, he looked back to see her returning to the window. Alone again. At the communications center, Woojin pulled up files on the main screen. I've been digging through Luminary databases, he said. Look at this. The screen showed academic papers, all written by Luminary researchers. The titles caught Deho's attention. The Anomaly of Human Emotional Bonding. Irrational Attachment Patterns in Human Relationships. The Biochemistry of Human Love. A Mystery. They've been studying us like we're some kind of supernatural phenomenon, Woojin explained. Every major Luminary university has a department dedicated to understanding human emotions. Deho scrolled through the papers. They were full of observations about humans that seemed almost clinical. How humans bonded with pets that gave nothing in return. How human parents loved children even when those children rejected them. How humans fell in love with people they'd never met, just from words on a screen. To the Luminary, it was all completely irrational. Now look at this, Woojin said, pulling up another file. It was marked with Velira's identification code. These are her personal research logs. She's been studying human love for over a year. The logs were detailed. Velira had watched human movies and analyzed them. She'd read human poetry and tried to understand the emotions behind it. She'd studied human couples on the station, observing how they interacted. One entry made Deho's chest tighten. I believe I am experiencing what humans call falling in love. Velira had written. The symptoms match their literature perfectly. I think about him constantly. I want to make him happy even when it costs me. I feel pain when he is sad, and joy when he smiles. By Luminary standards, this is irrational. I have analyzed our compatibility and found it questionable. We are different species, with different needs. A logical evaluation says, we would not work together. But I do not care about logic anymore. I care about him. Is this what it means to be human? Deho read the entry 3 times. Velira had been trying to understand her own feelings by studying humanity. She'd been learning to love the way humans did. There's more, Woojin said. He pulled up communication records. 3 months ago, a Luminary Council member came to the station specifically to speak with Velira. They argued for 2 hours. He played an audio recording. The translation software rendered the Luminary language into English. You are contaminating yourself with human weakness, the council member said. This emotional bonding you are attempting goes against our nature. Perhaps our nature needs to change, Velira replied calmly. You would abandon centuries of Luminary wisdom for this? I would abandon nothing. I would add to it. Velira's voice was firm. Humans have something we lack. The ability to bond purely through emotion. To connect across any barrier through sheer force of feeling. We Luminary are strong. But we are also isolated. Each of us stands alone, choosing mates based on evaluation rather than connection. Is that truly superior? Yes, the council member said. It keeps us strong, or it keeps us lonely, Velira said quietly. The recording ended. Deho stood in silence, processing everything he'd learned. She's been fighting her own people for the right to feel this way about you, Woojin said. The council wants her back home. They think she's been corrupted by human influence. Deho thought about what Velira had said on the observation deck, about humans being brave enough to love across any barrier. She'd learned that from studying humanity, and then she'd done it herself. She'd been braver than he had. I need to find her, Deho said. But before he could leave, Captain Rivera's voice came over the station intercom. All human personnel, Report to the main conference room, immediately. In the conference room, Deho found Hei-1 and dozens of other humans gathered. Captain Rivera stood at the front with a grim expression. "We've received official communication from the Luminari Empire," she said. "They're demanding that Ambassador Valera return home within 48 hours. They've also requested that we restrict contact between our species to essential diplomatic functions only." Murmurs of protest rippled through the room. "This is because of what happened at the dinner," someone said. "They're punishing her for choosing a human," another added. Captain Rivera held up her hand for silence. "The Luminari government views cross-species bonding as a threat to their cultural integrity. They've made it clear that if we want to maintain our alliance, we need to respect their wishes." "That's not fair to Valera," Hei-1 said loudly. "No," Captain Rivera agreed. "It's not. But diplomacy isn't about fairness. It's about maintaining peace." Deho stood up. "What if maintaining peace means losing something valuable?" Valera took a risk. By choosing me, she stood up against her own people, because she believed connection was more important than cultural purity. If we abandon her now, what does that say about us? The room fell silent. "It says we're practical," Captain Rivera said. But she didn't sound convinced. "It says we're cowards," Deho countered. "Valera learned about love from studying humans. She learned bravery from us. And now we're going to prove her wrong by choosing politics over connection?" He looked around the room at his fellow humans. "We tell ourselves that our ability to love across barriers makes us special, that our emotional connections are our strength, but if we can't stand up for someone who loved bravely enough to cross species, then it's all just talk." Hei-1 stood up beside him. "Deho is right. We have a chance to show that human values mean something. That our way of bonding isn't weakness, it's strength." More humans stood. One by one, they added their voices to support Valera. Captain Rivera watched them all, then sighed. "This is going to cause a diplomatic incident." "Maybe it needs to," Deho said. "Maybe some things are worth the trouble." Deho returned to the observation deck. His heart hammered in his chest as he walked through the dimly lit corridor. He'd made his decision. Now, he just needed the courage to follow through. Valera was exactly where he'd left her, standing at the window. But this time, her soul marks glowed gray. "The color of grief. You should not be here," she said without turning around. "Your captain will be displeased." "I don't care," Deho said, moving to stand beside her. "You should care. Your career, your future with your people, all of it could be damaged by associating with me. Valera, look at me, please." She turned slowly. Up close, he could see the exhaustion in her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept. "I've been researching your culture," Deho said. "Learning about Luminari bonding customs, understanding what the gifts meant, what the Karshen means." "There is no point now," Valera said quietly. "I will withdraw my proposal tomorrow morning. You do not need to worry." "What if I don't want you to withdraw it?" Valera's soul marks flickered, shifting from gray to a confused orange. "What?" Deho took a deep breath. "I've been an idiot. For months, you've been showing me how you feel. And I convinced myself it was impossible. That we were too different. That someone like you could never be interested in someone like me." "Someone like me?" Valera repeated. "Brilliant, strong, beautiful, important." Deho laughed shakily. "I'm just a human diplomat who makes bad jokes and drinks too much coffee. Why would you want me?" Valera's soul marks shifted to yellow, the color of affection. "Because you make me laugh. Because you see solutions where others see only problems. Because you treat everyone with kindness, even when they do not deserve it. Because when you smile at me, I forget to breathe." The honesty in her voice made Deho's chest ache. "I read your research logs," he admitted. "The ones where you were trying to understand what you were feeling by studying human love." Valera's soul marks flashed red with embarrassment. "Those were private. I know. I'm sorry. But, Valera, you learned to love like a human. You took that leap into the irrational, the illogical. You were brave enough to feel something that went against everything your culture taught you." He stepped closer to her. I've been falling for you too. I just didn't let myself admit it. Every morning, I looked forward to seeing you. Every night, I went to sleep thinking about our conversations. When you smiled at me, it was the best part of my day. Velira's soul marks brightened to gold, a color Deho had never seen before. You feel this way about me? Yes, Deho said. I was just too afraid to say it. But your people, my people, they will not approve. I don't care, Deho interrupted. You taught me something important. You showed me that connection matters more than politics. That love is worth fighting for. Even when it's difficult, Velira reached out and touched his face gently. Her hand was warm, her fingers long and delicate. I do not want to damage your life. You won't, Deho said. You'll make it better. He could see her wavering, hope and fear fighting in her expression. Her soul marks flickered between gold and gray. I should formally accept your proposal, Deho said, trying to remember the protocols he'd studied. There's a specific ritual, right? I'm supposed to say certain words? You do not need to do this, Velira said, but her voice trembled. I want to. Deho started trying to recall the formal luminary phrases. His nervous energy made him fumble the words. So I just say yes, and then we're bonded? Just like that? No dating period? No time to figure out if we're compatible? Because that seems fast. I mean, by human standards, we should probably go on at least a few dates first. Maybe dinner somewhere nice. Do you even eat human food? I know you tried pizza that one time and said it was interesting. Which I think means you hated it. He was rambling, his nerves making him talk too fast. It was his defense mechanism. The way he handled overwhelming emotions. Velira watched him with growing amusement, her soul marks shifting back to yellow. Deho, and what about living arrangements? Do we live on the station? Go to Earth? Your home world? Because I have to tell you, I'm not sure I'd survive on your planet. The gravity alone would probably kill me. Not that I'm saying no, I just think we should discuss practical matters. Deho, Velira said more firmly. And there's the whole cultural difference thing. What if I accidentally insult your family? What if there are luminary customs I don't know about? What if... Velira stepped forward and gently placed her hand over his mouth. Her soul marks glowed pure gold now, bright enough to cast shadows. She leaned close, so close he could see the intricate patterns in her soul marks, each line unique and beautiful. When she spoke, it was in Korean, the language she'd learned for him. Gunyang nege judearag he, she whispered. Just say yes to me. The intimacy of hearing his native language from her lips, the directness of the request, the vulnerability in her eyes. All of it broke through his nervous deflection. This was real. She was real. Her feelings were real. And his feelings were real too. Deho gently removed her hand from his mouth. He looked into her eyes. Those alien eyes that somehow felt like home. Yes, he said simply. Yes. I accept your proposal. Yes. I want to be with you. Yes to all of it. Velira's soul marks blazed gold, brighter than Deho had ever seen. She pulled him into an embrace, and he wrapped his arms around her waist. She was so much taller than him that his head rested against her chest. He could hear her heart beating, fast and strong. I was so afraid you would say no, she whispered into his hair. I was afraid too, Deho admitted. Afraid that I wasn't enough for you. Afraid that this was all a misunderstanding. She pulled back just enough to look at him. You are everything I want. Everything I choose. Then she kissed him. It was awkward at first, their different physiologies making it clumsy. But they figured it out together, learning each other. And it was perfect in its imperfection. When they finally separated, both of them were smiling. What happens now? Deho asked. Now we face the consequences together, Velira said. My government will not be pleased. Yours will not be pleased. There will be difficult times ahead. I know, Deho said. But we'll handle it together. Velira's soul marks pulsed with warmth. Together, she agreed. They stood there in the observation deck, holding each other as Earth rotated slowly below them. Two people from different worlds, choosing each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. Deho's communicator buzzed insistently. Then Velira's. They looked at each other and laughed. I suppose we should answer those, Velira said. Probably, Deho agreed. But give me one more minute. Just one more minute where it's just us. Velira tightened her embrace. One more minute. But even as they held each other, Deho knew the hard part was just beginning. They'd confessed their feelings, accepted each other, but the real challenge would be convincing two governments that their love was worth protecting. Outside the observation deck, the station's alarms began to blare. Emergency protocol. Something had happened. Deho and Velira broke apart and ran toward the command center. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. They'd made their choice, and now they would defend it. As they ran through the corridors, Velira grabbed his hand. Her skin was warm against his, her grip strong and steady. No matter what happens, she said, I do not regret choosing you. I don't regret choosing you either, Deho replied. They reached the command center to find chaos. Captain Rivera was arguing with someone on the main screen, a Luminari official that Deho recognized as a high-ranking council member. When the official saw Velira and Deho enter together, still holding hands, his expression darkened. So it is true, he said coldly. You have bonded with the human. Yes, Velira said, her voice steady and proud. I have. Then you leave us no choice, the official said. We are formally recalling you to the home world. You will face judgment for this dishonor. And if I refuse to come? Velira asked. The official's eyes narrowed. Then you will be exiled, cast out from Luminari society forever. You will lose everything. Velira looked at Deho. Her soul marks glowed gold. I have already gained everything that matters. The command center fell silent after Velira's declaration. The Luminari official on the screen stared at her with a mixture of shock and anger. You would choose exile over duty to your people? He demanded. I choose connection over isolation. Velira replied firmly. I choose love over fear. These are not betrayals of my people. They are gifts I learned from humans. This human has corrupted you, the official said, his tone sharp. Deho stepped forward, still holding Velira's hand. With respect, sir. Velira made her own choices. She's not corrupted. She's brave. You dare speak to me, human? Yes. I dare, Deho said. His voice shook slightly, but he didn't back down. Because someone needs to say this. Your culture values strength, right? Well, Velira showed more strength than anyone by standing up for what she believes in. She risked everything to bridge the gap between our species. That's not weakness. That's the definition of courage. Captain Rivera stepped forward. If I may, council member, perhaps we should discuss this calmly. Threatening exile serves no one's interests. The Luminari Empire does not negotiate on matters of cultural integrity, the official said coldly. Ambassador Velira has two choices. Return home and renounce this inappropriate bonding, or face permanent exile from Luminari society. The screen went dark. The official had ended the transmission. Velira stood very still. Her soul marks had faded to a dim gray. Deho squeezed her hand. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I knew this would happen, Velira said. But knowing does not make it easier. Before anyone could respond, another transmission came through. This time, it was from Earth's Diplomatic Council. Captain Rivera accepted the call, and a stern-looking man appeared on screen. Captain Rivera, we need to discuss the situation with Ambassador Kim, he said, without preamble. I'm right here, sir, Deho said. The council member frowned. Ambassador Kim, your actions have created a significant diplomatic crisis. The Luminari Empire is threatening to withdraw from all cooperative agreements unless we take corrective measures. What kind of corrective measures? Deho asked, though he already knew the answer. They want us to separate you from Ambassador Velira and reassign you to a different post. Immediately. No, Deho said simply. This is not a request, Ambassador. This is a direct order. Then I resign, Deho replied. Effective immediately. Captain Rivera looked shocked. Deho, think about what you're saying. I have thought about it, Deho said. You all keep talking about the alliance, about maintaining peace, about diplomatic protocol. But what's the point of any of it if we can't stand up for what's right? Heywan, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, spoke up. He's right. We claim that human values matter, that our way of bonding and connecting is important, but at the first sign of trouble, we're ready to abandon someone who represents everything we say we believe in. Wujin nodded. Valera learned about love from studying us. If we abandon her now, what does that teach other species about humanity? That our values only matter when they're convenient? Other crew members began voicing their support. One by one, humans in the command center spoke up for Deho and Valera. The council member on screen looked frustrated. You don't understand the bigger picture. This alliance is crucial for Earth's security. Maybe, Deho said. But what good is security if we lose ourselves to maintain it? The Luminari chose to ally with us because they were fascinated by human emotional bonds. They studied us because we had something they lacked. If we prove that those bonds mean nothing when tested, then we lose the very thing that made us valuable to them in the first place. He took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to choose me over the alliance. I'm asking you to show the Luminari that human values are real, that when we say connection matters, we mean it, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Captain Rivera stepped forward. Council member, if I may add my perspective. I've watched Ambassador Kim and Ambassador Valera work together for months. What they have isn't just romantic, it's a genuine bridge between two species. They've learned to communicate across barriers that seemed impossible. They represent what this alliance could become if we let it grow naturally instead of trying to control it. The council member was quiet for a long moment. I need to consult with the rest of the council. Stand by. The transmission ended. Everyone in the command center looked at each other uncertainly. Valera turned to Deho. You should not have resigned. Your career, your life on Earth, means nothing without you, Deho interrupted. I meant what I said. We're in this together. Over the next hour, more transmissions came in. Other humans on the station sent messages of support. Scientists who'd worked with Valera spoke up for her. Even some Luminari on the station, younger ones who'd been observing the human-Luminari exchange, sent quiet messages encouraging Valera to stand firm. Finally, a new transmission came through. This time, it showed multiple screens. On one side was the Earth Diplomatic Council. On the other, surprisingly, was a Luminari woman Deho had never seen before. She wore ceremonial robes marked with symbols of high rank. I am Matriarch Soranel, the Luminari woman said. I lead the Luminari Empire's Council of Matriarchs. Everyone in the command center stood straighter. The Matriarch was essentially the Luminari head of state. I have been following this situation with great interest, Matriarch Soranel continued. Ambassador Valera is one of our finest warriors and scholars. Her choice to bond with a human was unexpected. Valera bowed her head respectfully. Matriarch, I accept whatever judgment you deem appropriate. Do you regret your choice? The Matriarch asked. Valera didn't hesitate. No, Matriarch. I regret nothing. Even knowing it will cost you your position, your status, possibly your home? Even knowing all of that, Valera said firmly, I have found something precious. Something worth any cost. The Matriarch's expression was unreadable. And you, Ambassador Kim, are you willing to face similar consequences? Yes, Matriarch, Deho said. Valera is worth everything to me. The Matriarch was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, her stern expression softened slightly. In all our history, Luminari have prided ourselves on strength and logic, she said. But I have been reading the reports from this station, observing how humans and Luminari work together. And I have begun to wonder if our definition of strength is too narrow. She looked directly at Valera. You showed strength by choosing connection over conformity. You showed courage by standing firm despite opposition. These are luminary values, even if the context is new. Valera's soul marks flickered with hope. Therefore, the matriarch continued, I propose a compromise. You will not be exiled, Valera, but you will also not return to your previous position. Instead, you will serve as a permanent liaison between our species. You and Ambassador Kim will work together to develop protocols for cross-species bonding. Daeho felt his heart leap. You're approving our bond? I am acknowledging that change is inevitable, the matriarch said. The question is whether we resist change and become brittle, or embrace it and become stronger. You two represent a new possibility. I would be foolish to waste that. The Earth Council member nodded. We concur with this approach. Ambassador Kim, if you choose to withdraw your resignation, you will be reassigned to work alongside Ambassador Valera on this new initiative. Daeho looked at Valera. Her soul marks glowed brilliant gold. I accept, they said in unison, then laughed. There will be conditions, the matriarch warned. You will undergo both human and luminary bonding ceremonies. You will document everything about your relationship to help others who may follow your path. You will face skepticism and resistance from both our peoples. We understand, Valera said. And, the matriarch added with something that might have been amusement, you will raise any offspring with knowledge of both cultures. Well, Daeho blinked. Offspring? Is that even biologically possible? Our scientists believe so, the matriarch said. Though it has never been attempted, you will be pioneers in more ways than one. After the transmission ended, the command center erupted in celebration. Humans cheered and hugged each other. Even Captain Rivera smiled. Daeho turned to Valera. We did it, he said, hardly believing it. We did, Valera agreed. Her soul marks pulsed with joy. They held each other as their friends celebrated around them. It wasn't a perfect solution, and there would still be challenges ahead. But they'd won the right to be together. 2 weeks later, they held the bonding ceremony. It was unlike anything the station had ever seen. The first half followed luminary traditions, with Valera presenting the Karshan again, this time to acceptance and celebration. Daeho performed the ritual responses that he'd studied so carefully, speaking in flawless luminary. The second half was a human ceremony. Hae-Won officiated, and Daeho and Valera exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Daeho promised to learn to see the universe through Valera's eyes. Valera promised to never stop being amazed by Daeho's capacity for love. When it was over, they were bonded in both human and luminary law. The first cross-species couple in the alliance. 6 months later, Daeho stood in what would become their shared quarters on a new colony station. It was designed for both humans and luminary, with temperature controls and furnishings that accommodated both species. Valera entered carrying a box of her belongings. Her soul marks glowed steady gold these days, the color that meant contentment. The first human luminary couple just arrived at the station, she said. They asked to meet us. They want advice. Daeho smiled. We're relationship counselors now. Apparently, Valera said, setting down the box and moving to embrace him. Who would have thought? You did, Daeho reminded her. You saw the possibility when no one else did. I saw you, Valera corrected. Everything else followed from that. Through the window of their quarters, they could see Earth and the luminary home system in opposite directions. Two worlds, connected now by more than just politics. Do you ever regret it? Daeho asked. Giving up your old life for this? Valera's soul marks blazed brighter. Never. You taught me that the bravest thing is not to stand alone in strength, but to reach out in love. That is a lesson worth any price. She kissed him gently. Besides, I did not give up my old life. I gained a new one. A better one. Together, Daeho said. Together, Valera agreed. And as they stood there, two beings from different worlds who'd chosen each other despite every reason not to, they knew they'd started something that would change the galaxy, not through war or politics, but through the simple, powerful act of saying yes to love.